Imagine the weight of the phone in your hand. It is just plastic, glass, and lithium, but right now it feels heavier than lead. The room is quiet. Perhaps you are alone in your bedroom, the blue light of the screen illuminating your face. Or perhaps you are in a sterile hotel room, surrounded by people who call themselves your mentors. You are about to send a photo. Not a selfie for a friend, not a moment of vanity for social media. You are about to send something that could destroy you. A nude image, a video confession, a signed letter admitting to a crime you never committed. A voice in your head, or maybe the voice of the woman sitting next to you, whispers the logic. It is just an exercise in trust, she says. It is liberating. Only the weak are afraid of vulnerability. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Prove you are strong. Prove you are committed. Your thumb hovers over the screen. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a primal warning signal that you are choosing to ignore. You take a breath, you look into the lens, and you press send. Whoosh. Sent. In that microsecond, the data travels through the air, through the servers, and lands in a folder on a hard drive that you will never see. And in that same microsecond, you have ceased to be a free human being. You have just handed a stranger a loaded gun, placed the barrel against your own temple, and told them they can pull the trigger whenever they want. Welcome to the hidden engine of NXIVM. This is not a story about kidnapping. This is a horror story about how slavery began with a single, voluntary text message. To understand the horror of Collateral, you must first forget the branding irons and the headlines. You must go back to the beginning, where the monster wore a suit and tie. NXIVM did not present itself as a sex cult. If it had, the door would have remained shut. It presented itself as the solution to the human condition. It began as executive success programs. It looked like a corporate retreat for the elite. There were whiteboards covered with diagrams. There were color-coded sashes representing rank. There were lectures on ethics, value, and quantum physics. The people who walked through those doors were not broken drifters. They were actresses from your favorite TV shows. They were heiresses to billion-dollar fortunes. They were entrepreneurs, doctors, and lawyers. They came because they were hungry for purpose, hungry for optimization. Keith Rainier, the man they called Vanguard, was a predator who understood the camouflage of intellect. He sold them a very specific, very dangerous idea. Your fear is your enemy. Your boundaries are your limitations. Comfort is a drug that keeps you weak. In the fluorescent light of those seminar rooms, vulnerability was weaponized. They taught you that your instinct to protect yourself was actually a disintegration. They taught you to be truly ethical, you had to have no secrets. You had to be transparent. And slowly, systematically, the concept of privacy was rebranded as cowardice. The trap was set, and it was baited with the promise of your own greatness. The descent into the trap was not a cliff, it was a gentle slope. It didn't start with nudity, it started with exercises in honesty. Write down your deepest shame, they said. Tell us the one thing you have never told anyone, they urged. It felt like therapy. It felt like unburdening. You cried, you hugged your sisters, you felt lighter. But you didn't realize that every word you spoke was being cataloged. They were mapping the fault lines of your psyche. Then came the shift. The concept of collateral was introduced. It was explained with the cold logic of a bank loan. You want to achieve a high level of growth? The recruiter would ask. How do we know you won't quit when it gets hard? We need a guarantee. We need to know you are serious. It was framed as accountability. Give us something that ensures you will keep your word. It's just insurance. If you follow the path, this will never be seen. It will sit in a safe forever. It sounded fair. After all, you were committed. You weren't going to quit, so you gave them a little piece of yourself. Maybe a letter confessing to an embarrassing habit. Maybe a financial document. It wasn't blackmail, they told you. It was a growth tool.
but in reality, it was the first bar of the cage being welded into place. Then, the temperature changed, the demands became intimate, the insurance needed to be more valuable. The letter isn't enough, your mentor would say, looking at you with disappointment. It doesn't prove you're really ready to break through your limitations. We need more. This is where the sexual vulnerability was harvested. They asked for photos, specific photos, close-ups of your genitalia, videos of you performing acts you would never want the world to see, detailed, graphic confessions of sexual fantasies or past traumas.
They stripped away the eroticism. This wasn't about pleasure. It wasn't about seduction. It was about raw, clinical data. It was about acquiring assets. They used a sophisticated form of gaslighting to get it. If you are uncomfortable sending this, it means you are still governed by shame, they would lecture. Shame is a social construct. It is a parasite in your mind. To be free, you must destroy the shame, send the photo, and liberate yourself. And this is the most terrifying moment of the entire process, the moment where the victim becomes the executioner. You are not being held down. You are holding the phone. You look at the request, your stomach turns, your intuition screams no. But you have been trained to view that scream as weakness. You have been trained to view your own survival instinct as a deficiency. So you override it. You convince yourself that this violation is actually a breakthrough. You rationalize the abuse before it even happens, and you hit send. Physically, the world looks the same. You are walking down the street, you are buying coffee, you are driving your car. No one is holding your arm. You can delete the contact number from your phone. You can block them. You can get on a plane and fly to another continent. But you are not free, because your secrets no longer belong to you. You know with a cold certainty that sits in the pit of your stomach every waking hour that somewhere in a secure cloud drive or a physical safe in Albany, New York, there is a file with your name on it. Inside that file is a nuclear bomb. There are the nude photos that would humiliate you. There are video confessions where you admit to stealing from your parents, even if you never did, because they made you lie to create stronger collateral. There are letters accusing your own family members of abuse, fabricated to bind you to the group. There are documents that would result in you losing your medical license, your business, your children. They never have to scream at you. They never have to threaten you with a weapon. They just have to send a gentle text message. Hey, we missed you at the session today. Remember your vow. Remember what's at stake. You gave your word. Don't make us release the collateral. We want to protect you. The threat is silent. It is omnipresent. It is the invisible leash that stretches across cities and borders. And that is enough to make a strong, independent woman get back in her car and drive straight back to her abusers. By the time the secret society within NXIVM, known as DOS, Dominus Obsequious Sororium, was formed, the psychological infrastructure was complete. The women were ready to be harvested. To enter DOS, the vow of obedience was required. You had to give a monthly quota of collateral to your master. It became a ritual, a tribute. Every month, you had to find a new secret, a new photo, a new way to compromise yourself to prove you were worthy of serving. Sex, in this context, was no longer intimacy. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was a mechanism of submission. It was a loyalty test. Keith Raniere, the Grand Master, did not want a lover. He wanted a vessel. If you agreed to sleep with him, you were growing. You were shedding your arrogance. If you hesitated, if you cried, if you said no, you were betraying the mission. You were breaching your collateral. Your body became the ledger where your loyalty was recorded. And the most frightening part?
In your own mind, you were choosing it. You weren't a victim in your own eyes. You were a warrior overcoming your resistance. They made you frame your own slavery as a spiritual victory. This story hits a nerve in the American psyche because it subverts the very foundation of Western freedom. America is built on the ideas of privacy, consent, and individual liberty. We believe that as long as we have choice, we are safe. NXIVM hacked this operating system. They didn't steal freedom in the dead of night. They convinced you to sign a contract, giving it away. In the modern world, this horror story is a dark mirror. We live in an era of voluntary exposure. We post our locations. We share our intimate thoughts on social media. We seek validation from strangers. We trade our privacy for connection every single day. NXIVM just took that transaction to its ultimate, logical, and horrifying conclusion. It forces us to ask a question we are afraid to answer. What is the price of your vulnerability? How much leverage have you already given away? In a world where data is forever, is true freedom even possible once you've hit upload? The scariest thing about NXIVM cult isn't the branding ceremony. It isn't the starvation diets. It isn't the prison sentences. The scariest thing is the sent notification, because in that split second, the power transfer is absolute. You have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. And years later, when you wake up from the trance, when you look in the mirror and see the scar on your skin and the wreckage of your life, the nightmare isn't just what they did to you. The nightmare is that you cannot scream, "I was forced." Technically, you weren't. You held the phone. You framed the shot. You typed the confession. You pressed the button. And that is what makes Collateral the perfect weapon. It doesn't just destroy your life, it destroys your ability to claim your own innocence. It makes you an accomplice in your own destruction.